A very warm welcome. I'm Akanksha Swaroop. The US-China relationship has now reached a new low. In fact, it's getting worse every day. Not just over the war in Ukraine and China's role in arming Russia, but also over the origins of the coronavirus. On Monday, the US Department of Energy assessed that the COVID-19 pandemic most likely came from a laboratory leak in China. This was according to a newly updated classified intelligence report. According to sources, the Department of Energy in the United States assessed in the intelligence report that it had low confidence that the COVID-19 virus accidentally escaped from a lab in Wuhan. Now, it should be noted that intelligence agencies make assessments with either low, medium or high confidence. A low confidence assessment generally means that the information obtained is not reliable enough. It also indicates that the information is too fragmented to make a more definitive analytic judgment, or even that it lacks adequate information to draw a more powerful conclusion. But what stands out is that the latest assessment adds to the divide within the US government over the origins of COVID-19, on whether it spread as a result of a lab leak or whether it emerged naturally. In fact, various intelligence agencies have been split on this matter for years. What's interesting is how the possibility of a COVID lab leak has turned from a conspiracy theory into a raging government debate. In fact, an expert on infectious diseases who has advised the Biden administration on the COVID-19 pandemic has played down the US Energy Department's report. Listen in to what he had to say.
You know, it could have been a spillover event from animals into humans directly. Could it have been a potential virus in the lab that unintentionally infected workers there that then spread it? You know, we'll never know. There surely is a body of scientific evidence that says it was a spillover event. But as someone such as myself, who's been very concerned about laboratory safety for many years, I can't say with certainty that that didn't happen. And so I think that's what we're stuck with right now. We have to assume that both possibilities are real, and we have to plan for the future to say that we don't want to see another pandemic start because of a spillover event or because of a possible leak of the virus from that laboratory.
What the infectious disease expert had to say was somewhat also supported by the White House. On Monday, the White House National Security spokesman John Kirby said there has not still been a definitive consensus in the US government on the origins of the coronavirus. Listen in.
The work is still ongoing. There hasn't been a final conclusion arrived at here, and not everyone in the intelligence community or across the government necessarily has come to a consensus view here on how it started. But I want to go back to what I said before, and that's that the president believes it's important to know so that we can better prevent future pandemics.
And soon after the White House, the US ambassador to China also reacted. The ambassador, Nicholas Burns, said that China must be more honest about the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic.
If we're going to do something to strengthen the World Health Organization, then we're going to have to push China to be more active in it and to, of course, be more honest about what happened 3 years ago in Wuhan with the origin of the COVID-19 crisis.
China's foreign ministry was quick to push back against the claim made by the United States. At a press conference in Beijing, the foreign ministry spokesperson reacted sharply. She said that relevant parties should stop stir-frying the lab leak arguments and politicizing the origin tracing of COVID-19.
First, I would say that the origin tracing of COVID-19 is a matter of science, which should not be politicized. China has always actively supported and participated in global science-based origin tracing. It is an authoritative scientific conclusion drawn by joint experts from China and the World Health Organization on the basis of field visits to relevant labs in Wuhan and in-depth exchanges with relevant scientific researchers that lab leak is extremely unlikely, which is accurately reflected in the related China-WHO joint study report and has been widely recognized by the international community and the scientific community. The relevant parties should stop stir-frying the issue and stop vilifying China and politicizing the issue of origin tracing.
And so time and again, China has pushed back against the politicization of the lab leak theory. But the more they do it, the more the debate gets momentum. Having said that, the latest report by the US Energy Department was provided to Congress only after the Republicans pushed for further investigation into the lab leak theory. In fact, they have accused the Biden administration of playing down its possibility. The House Foreign Affairs Chairman, Mike McCaul, has already expressed his pleasure in a statement. But the political debate over the origins of the coronavirus began soon after the pandemic struck in November of 2019. In April 2020, Donald Trump, who referred to COVID-19 as the China virus or the Kung flu, supported the lab leak theory. His views were refuted by Dr. Anthony Fauci, then the government's leading infectious disease expert. And fast forward to the final days of Donald Trump's US presidency in January of 2021, the State Department published a fact sheet stating this, that the US government believed that some researchers at the Wuhan Institute of Virology became sick in the fall of 2019, shortly before the outbreak of the pandemic. And in May, it is reported that 3 researchers were hospitalized before the first coronavirus case was reported. Now, the lab under scrutiny was the Wuhan Institute of Virology, a biolab that researched into bat viruses. Now, February of 2021 was pivotal, but without a robust conclusion in sight. The WHO team investigating the source of COVID-19 said it was unable to discern its origins, but called the lab leak theory extremely unlikely. Months later, in May 2021, US President Joe Biden ordered an intelligence review into the 2 predominant COVID-19 origin theories. And in July 2021, Dr. Anthony Fauci and Senator Rand Paul called each other liars during a Senate hearing. Why so? Because this hearing was part of a months-long debate over whether federal agencies funded risky gain-of-function research in China. And Fauci denied that the research method was used, and the National Institutes of Health later said that viruses studied with federal funding in China were genetically far distant from SARS-CoV-2 or the virus of COVID-19. But that did not rest the Republican anger. Last year, in October, the Republicans released a report saying the most likely origin of the coronavirus was a research-related incident at a lab in China. It pointed to biosafety issues at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Well, these are just few instances which highlight how the lab leak has over the years turned into a raging debate. Perhaps more honesty by Beijing may just be able to avert a repeat of the 2019 catastrophe.